Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravam Pracharna Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastikadeshatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha. Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Churu Swaminiti Namane. Srila Sanatana Goswami Ki Jai. Well, it really was just so amazing to listen to Giriraj Maharaj and then Radhanath Maharaj, their appreciations, their understandings, realizations about Bhakti Churu Maharaj. Just so wonderful. Sometimes it's said, devotees have told me, that some talk of some sort of special connection or something like that between Bhakti Churu Maharaj and Srila Sanatana Goswami. Anyway, certainly today is the disappearance day of both, and that's special. And I have here one of my, I have these bead bags. I have a number of bead bags with different embroideries or paintings. This is a painting of Sanatana Goswami offering bhati to Madan Mohan. I don't know if you can see it, but maybe you can pick it up a bit. It's just really amazing. So, what I'd like to do, of course, the focus is on Bhakti Churu Maharaj. It must be. And it's very, there's so much to say about Maharaj, particularly as I was listening to Giriraj Maharaj, and also Radhanath Maharaj, but particularly Giriraj Maharaj. It really, again, struck my heart. What a devotee, Bhakti Churu Maharaj. What a devotee. What an amazing and just amazingly wonderful devotee. And in certain respects, certainly, comparison can be made with Sanatana Goswami, or some at least sort of parallels, you might say. And to bring this out a bit, I want to just read to you. Maybe it'll take 5 minutes, or maybe it'll take 10. Something about Sanatana Goswami, which in mood is really, really something which connects us also with Bhakti Churu Maharaj. Radhanath Maharaj mentioned he just said a few words about Sanatana Goswami and the bridge buses, the relationships they had, the concerns Sanatana Goswami had for them, and like this. So I want to just read this passage here about the relationship between Sanatana Goswami and the bridge buses. So please listen carefully. It's very beautiful, and I'm sure if you listen to it nicely, you'll really feel there's something here also regarding Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So again, please listen. After staying in one town, when Sanatana would go to another town, the people would follow behind him. Whether a young boy or old man, whoever it was, all would lose their patience and cry as the Goswami would leave. Sanatana Goswami himself would shed tears as he solaced them and sent them back to their own homes. Only after they all stopped crying and returned to their houses would Sanatana leave for the next village. As Sanatana approached the next village, the people would watch him coming from a distance. Whether young or old, man or woman, everyone would say, "Here is Sanatana." The bridge buses displayed wonderful affection. The villagers could not sit in one place, but went to welcome Sanatana. Just as a poor man experiences unlimited happiness if he suddenly obtains a valuable jewel, so the bridge buses felt unlimited happiness by seeing Sanatana. The old and very old men and women all treated Sanatana as their own son. Someone said, "My dear son, how did you pass so many days forgetting us? Thinking about you, we were almost dead." Speaking these words, they all looked on the face of Sanatana Goswami. Seeing the wonderful arrangements for his welcome, Sanatana was greatly pleased. The men, women, and youths who were born in that village all had brotherly affection for Sanatana. Someone said, "My dear brother, how are you? You must have forgotten us completely. Why have you become so cruel?" In this way they spoke with tears in their eyes. All the boys and girls came to touch the feet of Sanatana. Although he tried, he was unable to restrain them. Standing at a distant place out of shyness, the married ladies would take darshan of Sanatana. Just by seeing Sanatana Goswami, everyone forgot to even offer obeisances. Whoever came rushing to welcome him would embrace him, take his hand, and lead him along. The villagers would jubilantly have him sit under a sacred tree, and everyone would sit around him. They would all bring yogurt, butter, and milk from their homes for Sanatana. After he finished eating, they would all sit happily with him. Sanatana affectionately inquired from each person about their well-being. He inquired about how many children, daughters and sons they had, whether they were married, where they were married, what were their names and what was their education. He asked how many cows and bulls they had, how their agriculture was, how much grains they produced, and what was their daily routine. He also asked them how their health was and what was their state of mind. Hearing these inquiries, everyone felt happy. Gradually, each one of them answered his questions. When Sanatan heard someone's distress, he also felt distressed. By Sanatan's solace, they felt relief from their distressed condition. In this way, they passed the whole night. Early in the morning, as soon as Sanatan had finished his bath and other duties, everyone would come to see him. They would bring milk and yogurt and request Sanatan to accept it. After feeding others, Sanatan would also eat. By seeing others happy, Sanatan would also become happy. When he would leave the village, everyone would cry in agitation. Who can describe the affectionate dealings of Sanatan Goswami? He would solace everyone in various ways. The people would follow Sanatan Goswami as he left for some distance, until he would give his own vow to make them return to their homes. And there's more actually, but that I think gives us the idea, and I think, well, certainly I can really feel and see the parallel with Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj. As Giriraj Maharaj particularly was emphasizing the warmth of Bhakti Charu Maharaj's heart, just so amazing. Looking at this picture here on the Vyasas, it's also really amazing. You can just see the warmth of the heart, of his heart, just shining through. And he was a scholar. He was a kirtan leader, kirtan singer, bhajan singer. He was so many things very wonderfully. But he was the main thing to me. He was a Prabhupada man. He was such a Prabhupada man. And he was such a warm-hearted Vaishnav. I've never experienced it more than with him, the warmth of Vaishnav relationships. And so many times I went either to some place where he was staying, here in Durban, occasionally in Joburg, or in the temple in Radharatnath Temple, or in Mayapur on Maharaj's invitation to take prasadam which he had cooked himself. Who can forget his stir-fried vegetables? Who can forget his pizzas? All done by himself and on his invitation. Just such an amazing devotee. As Giriraj Maharaj said, he was quoting Lord Chaitanya. Oh, actually, he was quoting Ramananda Roy, who was asked by Lord Chaitanya, what is the most distressing thing, or what is the greatest distress for a devotee? And Ramananda Roy replied, other than separation from the devotee, from a Vaishnav, I don't know of anything distressing. So, of course, in this world where kind of used to facing distressing situations of all different types. And it might be a little surprising to hear that statement that other than separation from a Vaishnav, there's nothing really distressing. But as we continue with our practice of Krishna consciousness, then it'll become more clear, really more and more clear, that actually this is true. And this whole experience of Maharaj's disappearance, 2 years ago, it was a very deep experience. I was a member of the GBC Executive Committee, and I was appointed to keep up to date with what is happening with Maharaj when he was in hospital. So every hour or something, I was in touch with devotees there and disciples there. And I remember how finally, when Maharaj actually left this world, that like I say, we were speaking on the final day, we were speaking every 15 minutes or half an hour or something like that. And then when he actually left, like maybe a minute later, one of the disciples phoned me from the hospital and told me, and I had to break the news to the world. What an experience. It's like sort of, being on a different planet, or just, is this reality? What is this? It was really such an experience, actually hearing that this had happened and passing the message on. And it just reminded me of a verse here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Giriraj Maharaj referred to and quoted the translation of the verse, Ramananda Roy explaining about the pain of separation from the Vaishnav. But there's another related verse which I'll just read to you right now about the separation between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami. And again, it's related with Bhakti Churu Maharaj in principle in terms of our relationships with him. This is Antya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 4. Sanatana Goswami visits the Lord at Jagannath Puri, and it's verse 208. Ye kale vidaya haila prabhura charane dui jana vicheda dasha nayaya varnane. This is the translation. Because Lord Sanatana Goswami had come to visit just after escaping from his forced employment in the government of Bengal. He met Lord Chaitanya at Varanasi. Lord Chaitanya then sent him to Vrindavan for a visit and then said, after you've been there a while, come to Puri and spend some time with me. So Sanatana spent a year with Lord Chaitanya, And then Lord Chaitanya told him, now go back to Vrindavan and stay there and develop Vrindavan and write about Vrindavan. So the translation, the scene of separation that took place when Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took leave of each other is so piteous that it cannot be described herein. And again, this makes us think of Bhakti Churu Maharaj and being separated from him. For all of us, disciples, God brothers, God sisters, whoever, those who had relationships and spent time with Maharaj, even those who didn't really spend much time, but particularly those who really spent quite a bit of time with Maharaj. What an experience. Wonderful experience being with him. What an experience being separated from him. And, like I said, this sort of the connection or something like that with Sanatana Goswami, that's one thing and it's an interesting thing. But what really is the glory of Bhakti Churu Maharaj is his relationship, ultimately his relationship with Srila Prabhupada, and how he gave that to us. In GBC meetings, I was in many GBC meetings with him over the years, actually from 1988. From 1988 every year. And when matters would come up for decisions and what to do and what's the right thing and all sorts of considerations like that, Maharaj would always bring up something to do with Prabhupada. What would Prabhupada do? What would be the right thing for Prabhupada to do for Srila Prabhupada? These considerations were always foremost in his mind, in his heart, and then he would convey Prabhupada to others and to all of us. So in his absence, as is said about Sanatana Goswami, that his association cooled the blazing heat of the excessive sun of Kali Yuga just burning. So his association cooled that. But in his absence, we feel a little bit like orphans. But in the meantime, we have to carry on, take shelter of Maharaj on the spiritual platform, his vapu, his vani. Take shelter of Maharaj's vani, take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, and take shelter of the devotees. And if we do like that nicely, we'll feel we're in the presence of Maharaj. Just as Prabhupada said, I'm never alone. I remember Nelson Mandela in Radharanath temple room asking me, looking at Prabhupada on the Vyasasana and asking, how did he do it? How did he do it? And I tried to explain that because he was always connected with his spiritual master and always getting strength like that and he was never alone. So as disciples of Maharaj, please do like that. Take shelter of Maharaj in the form of his Vani, in the form of meditation on him, in the form of serving him, and you'll feel his presence. You'll be in his presence. And we're all going to be together forever. So one day you'll wake up and you'll be in his presence, actually, directly with him, with Prabhupada in Goloka Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhakti Churu Swami Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Sanatan Goswami ki jai. Hare Krishna.